This is TWiT.
Some of you may remember when I talked about the professor who was going to live in a dumpster. His name was Professor Jeff Wilson. He's the dean of Houston-Tillotson University College in Austin, Texas. He's a very distinguished man. He holds a PhD in environmental science from the University of Canterbury. He's a respected associate professor of biological sciences. He's a recipient of one of the most competitive teaching honors in the United States, the Regents Outstanding Award, and he's received funding from the NSF, from Ford Motor Company, Home Depot, and he's on the forefront of research into curriculum and sustainability. Well, we brought him up because he had a very interesting project. He wanted to find out what's the smallest amount of space that we, in modern contemporary society, could live in. Oh, many of us live in houses that are 2,400 or 2,500 square feet. In fact, that's the average in the United States. That's not even a muck mansion. And along with all that space comes all the stuff that we've accumulated. In fact, so many of us have accumulated enough stuff to need another house or a storage unit or someplace else to park our junk. Well, the professor here decided that he was going to live in this. This is a dumpster that has 35 square feet of space. Now, of course, he didn't just move into a smelly old dumpster. It was actually cleaned out. It was purpose-made for him. It was repurposed for everything he needed for his contemporary life. He wanted a low-impact, zero-net-waste dwelling that would have, well, basically a negligible impact on the planet. Now, here's a rundown of what he had and didn't have. He had 33 square feet of living space. He had a bed. He had 4 pairs of pants. He had 4 shirts, 3 pairs of shoes, 3 hats, 9 bow ties, and everything was stored in a false floor with some cooking equipment that was designed for camping. He didn't have a shower, a sink, or a toilet. He used the facilities at the university. He didn't have a washer or a dryer. He didn't have a closet, a desk, running water, or even insulation. Since we talked about this story last year, he added solar panels, an electrical hookup, air conditioning, because, well, in the summer it can be absolutely brutal. And after a year, he is now walking out. That's right. On the anniversary of simply living in a dumpster, the good professor is ready to move on to the next part of his academic career. Now, most of us would never think about moving into such a small house. And there's good reason for that. We have a fundamental desire to be self-sufficient. In fact, it's not just a desire to have our stuff. It's a desire to not need someone else's help when we get into trouble. It's part, not just of our human nature, but of our national ethos. You've heard it before. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Do it yourself. Don't take that helping hand. Don't take that handout. Well, there are now some people who are wondering if that's the right way to go, if that's the right lessons to be ingraining into the minds of the younger generations. Think about the message that we're sending out. Never need help. Never need a helping hand. Never need your neighbors. Never be vulnerable. Never be without. And it's only when you can do those things that you're successful. What the dumpster house did was to turn a lot of those assumptions on their head. It was to take them and say, well, do I always need everything that I will ever need in my entire life? Do I need to be completely isolated from my neighbor? Do I always need to feel shame if I need a helping hand? Do I have to be ashamed to need my friends? Well, maybe not. There are a lot of things to say that people have already said about this man. They've said that he's an academic who doesn't really understand how to live in the world. People have said that he's a dreamer, that no one could ever actually live in a 35 square foot house. There are people who said that he's a communist, he's a socialist, he's a bad man because he's trying to make us feel bad about the things that we've accumulated. But I think there's something more important at play here, and that is to make us all question what we could do without. What would we absolutely need, would be the bare minimum for us to live the way that we want to live? What are the things, in other words, that are actually important to us? The question, especially for this new generation, is, which is more connected than any previous generation, is if we're always on the go, if we're always connected, if we do believe that we are now social people, why are we still living in houses that are McMansion antisocial? Perhaps we're ready to move into a society that values connections rather than independence.